Chill here with Sirius Taurus Moon. This is Venus hour. And Venus is close to the ascendant ruled by Leo. The moon was crossing Rahu. And so a couple of things that came up. I talked about ritual, but also let's talk about energy. Because those rituals that are done to try to collapse your perception, not just eyesight, but perception, into feeding egregores that are basically harvesting on your inner light, creativity, attention, manifestation, and thriving life. You have way more wealth than you can imagine, and way more connectivity, embodiment, sensuality. The lower astral, what they call, was corrupted by horrid abuse for many people. And yet, each and every person is a consciousness, and reconnecting with that. Having your own observation, your own opinion, your own philosophy, your own spirituality. There are many things done to try to control and not just control, but harvest on consciousness and energy. However, they are done in elected astrological times. I was watching Mspiracy, which is a great channel on YouTube, and she talked about the role of observation. But I want to address energy, because those rituals are funded and done by wealth families that control. One is Rothschild, control the banking system, the currency, current electricity. Uranus, god of sky, Enki, Anunnaki, Nike. Okay, so that's the V that people see. But the god, the sky that punishes the land, loses the mandate of the heaven, be it Mao or with the people. And sky is a young element, and it's lightning element. And if it is abusive of the land, then it loses mandate of the heaven, which right now happens. CEOs from BlackRock to pharmaceutical companies to housing real estate companies being assassinated by the very extortion calls that they run and are invested in. In fact, they are promised longevity, but are told to do all the actions that go against that, which lead to political assassination and, of course, the abruption of longevity and the collapse of shape-shifting, which they are promised. So, and technology cannot fully replace that. The other family, again, currency current, the other family that is Rockefellers, and they own the infrastructure that harvests oil and gas. Okay, that's what they base their wealth on, including patenting plant therapy. That was the beginning of John D. Rockefeller. And you have to understand those energies. Okay, so for the Rothschilds, every time Uranus is in Taurus, okay, either they adopt the part in the family that doesn't do inbreeding, for example, adopt it. the part that founded rights for women and having and freedom of choosing whichever profession what to work in. Yes, that was the Declaration of Independence for Israel. That part managed to maintain, but they lost assets during the Second World War. They lost members of the family to the death and concentration camps. And now is another period of adaptation. And if as much as their currency liberates, and this is where the Rockefeller were assisting because they taxed women and thus found it profitable to give women the right to own a bank account. So as much as they adapt the rituals behind the currency, and why the rituals behind the currency? Because the Rockefellers, like I said, control the infrastructure to derive oil and gas. And the wars are banking wars over not just oil and gas, and rare earth minerals, but what's happening is that we are moving towards the energy of the air and the water. There are many attempts to stop this, and this is because those are different energies. The sun has endless power, but the essence of the energies underneath the ground is deeply transformative, purgatory, and carries a lot of sacrifice of the natural habitat. The solar energies still, but less and less, and the wind energies as well. So those that adapt to solar energy and to wind energy are independent of Rockefeller, which means that they are independent of Rothschild, and a part of the BRICS perhaps could be explained by that. But the sky that punishes the land loses mandate of the heaven, be it Mao Zedong go with the people. So not only the West has to reassess the entire occultistic basis, and I talked about the goddesses and the gods, the yin and the yang, as both important to contain life. And whenever we harm one, there's endless war. Now, it ends with observation. And as we observe, we see the patterns, and we collapse the patterns back to the direction where it can contain life. So the energy of sun and wind is energy of light and energy of that which is transparent. A little discernment, you will see a cloud is not looking organic, and even sun. Okay, something that people cannot hide for a long while, and they try to have people live in bunkers so they won't see it. But actually, it's an agent of architecture. that is, even if you talk about, let's say, a cabin in the mountain, it has a lot of light. In fact, every single house has a right to light. And so the wealth consolidation is being done in the light. This is why in 2025 people can hear Anneke Lucas and it doesn't sound like science fiction because there are more people who dealt with being with attempting to watch them and collapse their reality for them. And thanks Spiracy for the quantum fragment. And it doesn't look like a conspiracy because it's in the light. How is the family making the wealth? Banking, currency. What is banking doing? Funding for all sides of war. How is Rothschild making the wealth? Owning infrastructure for derivation of gas and oil. Okay? And how do they consolidate their wealth? In the past, it was underground, Plutonian way, purgatory ways, taboo ways, secretive ways, secret Pluto, just like Swiss Bank. Swiss Bank said, we hide your money. Then, when people, both Nazis and Jews that survived, came to take the money, Swiss Bank says, what money? But also, it hides, it was tax haven, tax evasion for everybody until in 2022 or 3, I think. It says, here's the list. Do you think that they don't have Epstein's list? And the attempts to keep us on gas and oil are very limited. First of all, we have a crisis of funding for the war. In fact, when Mark Rutte, the other Mark, not the true, no, because in the picture is the one to the, I think, right. When he entered his job in NATO, he said, Putin wants war, he will have to fund for that, but so would we. And he faced people with the awful financial truth or good financial truth that they don't have the funding. And when it comes to weapon creation, Saturn in Aries soon is delay in creation of weapon. Although they tried to push him by the 1100, that an entire Dutch government was a part of, somehow children were taken from their parents because of debt. Manufactured debt, but let's not even talk about the manufactured debt. Somehow families that did not have money, their children were taken from them. How does that happen? Well, if there is somebody that's going to be blamed for that, have a campaign on them so that they can push him to start a world war that nobody can fund for. Then they try the best, but the energies are shifting and the purgatory happens. Okay, Pluto does not keep something secret forever. He reveals the taboos when everybody can see it. So even in the context of war over resources, people say that, hey, we have better resources. Why are people buying water filters when the Sahara forest is being, yes, the Sahara forest, because it used to be a desert, but now there is reforestation. which is remineralization, which is clear fresh water, no fluoride, no xylitol. How is the Arctic today? Shout out to Inuit people. And once upon a time, people thought that mind control is this sci-fi thing. Not when the democide got to their area, not when the flutes got to their area. Each and every ritual like that was a ritual that included a cult. And so, spiritual warfare. You want to tell me that all the people that pull up the Archangel Michael that are being told, don't ask, but how does it work? And when we work with certain energy, now everybody has a solar panel. Because if you can depend on gas from Russia, but then entire Europe would go kaput. And what's happening is that um, they have to take the implications of the energies that they're working with, because if it's solar energy, everything is in the light, and the world consolidation is transparent, which is age of air. It's what we should be doing. But the problem is that Pluto is in a purgatory. So all the wealth consolidation that was when wealth was derived from um, oil and gas, including the taboo things that happen to people in the rituals. You see, now people see in praxis, political assassination is created by ritual abuse, fragmentation of both the assassin and the assassin. It's evidence. And we see that. We see that those political assassinations are snuff-ordered films, and we have testimonies of survivors that had to position the to be extorted person in position where their face would be seen on camera as they unfortunately rape a child. We have testimonies of people that were raped and know that those that raped them were also raped. It's all in the light. And the attempts to just hide and say we don't do that, kind of looks like Monty Python. So scientifically, also when it comes to investment, the number one citizen, if they are invested in surveillance on citizens, their yield for their investment could be their assassination, or extortion, or leaking of things. Because the minute they're to be disposed of, they become expendable. And scientifically, it's shown that these people are not living forever, because they are told that they are free and they enslave them. They are told that they will evade all karma, but they're told to do exactly the things that would harm them to the bone, because the blessings for the higher ranks is the bone marrow. And as more and more people begin to see and discern and not accept, because especially if things like the giant COVID, people don't accept readily what authority says, which is fantastic. They begin to look into the things themselves and have their own ungoverned gnosis. notice their own patterns. And when we talk about sacrifice for war, those who sacrifice in belief that they will win a war or win a battle financially or the war on resources, they are invaded, they are colonized, and they are being disposed of, from BlackRock to the CEOs of all of these companies. Those who sacrifice eventually find that they are the sacrifice. All along, the longing and the manifestation for a wealth that is actually wealthy, a love that is actually loving, an orgasm that is actually tantric, embodying orgasmic, full, sovereign, that people feel good before, during, and after. That is not something that can happen on the line of trajectories that are controlled and fragmented. Gods that don't put you in endless war. Okay. we, it's kind of like common sense. Um, and the structure of wealth changes. And so we see that um, it has implications on the previous structure of wealth and anything that goes by the Nazi ideology. Now, people don't like Trudy because she says national, I'm sorry, Zionism. I don't look at it from that point of view, but from a very specific point of view. The sky that punishes the land loses a mandate of the heaven, be it Mao Zedong or we the people. Anything along history that enslaved was enslaved, that violated, that raped, okay, perished to the bone. And um, it doesn't matter if it wears uniforms or big hats, little hats, white hat, red hats, black hats, okay? Doesn't matter which hat. Um, anything that does that. You see, even the gods, when in the name of a god there is torture, there is trafficking, then what happens? First of all, um, those that do that is considered abomination. But if they try to insist that they don't do that, then what happens is people start going against the religion and the God. And this is how anti-Semitism in modern age is created. Okay? People are not mad at what happened to Jesus. That was also the Roman Empire. And the apostles themselves were doing Inquisition. But they are mad at the Epsteins wearing penguins and being under the guise. And they are mad at it at the land of the Jews. Owning the real estate, doing weird rituals. The problem is not that people have a house, the problem is that they try to enslave. That's just one example. There are the Mormons and so on and so forth. But the issue is is that people, if Jews continue to claim, no, we don't do that, we don't traffic people under the guise of forced marriage, um, we don't practice polygamy, no, then what happens? The people say, oh, the marker is that religion, because they hide under that god. So people start being secular. Now the bank, the bank of the gods that do human trafficking, okay, is collapsing. And people already see that people don't speak fear anymore, because what is said to scare them causes them to speak more truth and collapse more timelines, and being exposed to more and more and more people that thought that they are alone in this, that nobody will believe them. In 2019, when I was threatened for my life by a psychologist that himself was tortured, and being told they don't know what's energy, I did not know that there was major conversation on satanic ritual abuse. And major witchcraft is witchcraft being done to try to traffic people. That I did know. I didn't understand what it was. I was looking into, into philosophy of medicine, applied medicine, philosophy of applied medicine, and and that was an applied, but this is what happens. 2007, I did not know that there were these rituals. They were targeting me and a person who was musician, um, in St. Ilgen next to Heidelberg, and he drank a couple of beers, I think. Perhaps he stopped drinking beer after that, because the way he was haunted by his actions following um, brotherhoods. He was a member of the brotherhoods. I don't think he even understands what he was a member of. He was a member of the fucking Nazis. That's what's up. They market it in different ways. It was around the murder of Madeleine. And probably the lower ranks, they don't know what is actually going on in the higher ranks. Um, and they probably know enough to understand that they kind of like, maybe they shouldn't be doing this, but but that's it. And 2007, okay, the murder of Madeleine. So any ideology that is, Nazi ideology in essence is derived from those indigenous and non-indigenous belief systems that had thought that slavery is okay, that rape is okay, and were constantly in war. And yes, the money flows, but nobody actually enjoys that. It's an approximation of something that the soul always cries for something more. Because it's and they rape under the guise of this is natural. There's nothing natural in rape. It's just that people have forgotten a humanity that is not tormented and fragmented, because the history is being, if you look at Wikipedia, yes, you will not see the kingdom of David. If you look at the same years in Hebrew, you will see the kingdom of David. Okay, the United Kingdom of Israel. Two different histories. So going back to what M. Spiracy said, collapsing the timeline by observation is an individual sovereign act. When people understand that this is, and I actually looked into consciousness also in my thesis proposal, and this emergence and design. We are a part of design and emergence. We both have to nourish ourselves, mineralize ourselves with organic minerals, not byproduct of the Industrial Revolution minerals. And we are a design that collapses timelines, particularly the inorganic timelines that were said to enslave humanity. And that perhaps what this eclipse on the people level exposed, because Mercury ruled soul is the details about the alchemy around light and the sun. And Venus in Leo talks about values and talks about relations. So, how does the observation relate to alchemy, and how does alchemy relate to observation, and how does that affect relation? Okay, what is being brought in union? The alchemy of the alchemy of unionizing things. And the people are able to see that each and every person is a consciousness that observes. And there is intention, and all the rituals that are done to try to collapse the organic timelines or hijack them are more and more visible, particularly when the moon was eclipsing and then going over Rahu. Venus is ruling Mars. This applying to oppose Chiron, Mars in Libra. So yes, also astrology. If people tell people some things about astrology, okay, let's just put it that way. Those that try to hijack the timeline, they use astrology, and people can, with and without astrology, collapse the timelines. But we can see that the rituals are elected around astrological events. Eclipses happen between 4 to 6 or 7 times a year. Usually around the equinoxes. And that also is coinciding with people being more conscious about what rituals are done and what do they choose to participate, and what egregores they choose to feed, and what do they feed into the egregore. So when it comes to what funds for things, there are opportunities to be way more sovereign, and it is a part of the collapsing of the timeline of the wealth that was based on something that stays hidden and taboo and then being purged and removed. There might be earthquakes because gas from the soil, okay, and the wealth consolidation. So this is also an opportunity for people that want to have wealth that is actually wealthy, the wealth consolidation needs to be transparent and benefic, not extortion based. That's basically what it means. Um, that being said, the people that still go by slavery and rape, uh, losing mandate of the heaven. Okay, Hitler could conquer a lot of people that were close to the traditional family values. This is, by the way, why it was picked. That was still rapey and exploitative of children. And then all these people were destroyed. Jews are not, because the Nazis were destroyed. Um, and right now we have similar transits, but the people can collapse the timeline, and those that are more in alignment with abolishing of slavery, abolishing of yes, abuse of children and of women, and of course men by that merit, um, more aligned with basically what's visible, what's transparent. For a very simple reason, Neptune rules shame as well. What is in the light, and to try to make a person feel not ashamed about something bad that they did, will have, how should I say that, an ego collapse when they run into the world where there are repercussions to that. And when the more a person holds accountability, stops perpetuating, and diverts the focus and the light on those that still perpetuate, first of all, a lot of fungal structures die, and they leave place for the benefic fungi and the benefic probiotics. And secondly, this actually creates the transparency and accountability basically create a reality where they do things that are benefic, and know that they are watched when they're doing things that are not benefic, and begin to develop sovereignty so they're not susceptible to drug abuse, because Neptune rules drugs as much as they used to, and thus they feel less shame from an authentic place, not from a dissociative place. To try to normalize uh, that which cannot be normalized, and have a life that people desire to live, on whichever rank, by the way, necessitates a shit ton of drugs um, to dissociate from the shame. And those are the timelines that are organically collapsing. Oh, Lilith 18 degrees reminds us that sexual sovereignty, even on an invisible level, is important, because even if a person is psychically raped, they can get yeasty, which is, by the way, physical evidence for something not something around willing consent. You see, when we remove the taboo of discussion about those things, we discover a whole new world, and so on.